going to let you know that this has been a difficult breakfast to get ready for. And normally, I just want to tell you how the process usually goes. Usually, God gives me something, and I'm going to, honestly, He just kind of gives me an idea. Like my idea for this theme and me dressing up like this, that all came before I knew what the verse was going to be and the theme was going to be for this year. So that's how God solidifies things to me, is I didn't even know what the verse was. In fact, I'm going to get a card here. And the verse was supposed to be before He gave me that idea. And I think that that's amazing that He works that way. But He's been pretty silent. For a girl that likes to plan, that's a struggle. Because I think, okay, let's tell me what's going on. There's been times that He felt so far away, which He has before in my life. I'm just going to tell you that, but not when I'm actively seeking Him. But He felt like He just wasn't answering me. And then there was times whenever I was really asking Him a question, that I got a text from somebody that said that they were praying for me specifically because they knew I was working on this, and I was just trying to figure things out. That He was like so close to me, it was overwhelming. And so I actually thought, okay, somebody else is going to talk. But He wasn't giving me any names either, so I had no idea where this was going. So yesterday, I got it all down. So we'll see. I am somebody that actually looks at barriers in our life. If for anything that we have to do, if this is where we're at and this is where we need to be and we can't get there, there's got to be some type of a barrier, right? And usually the barrier isn't God if He's asking us to do something. Now, He does put barriers in our life as protection, like the wall around the kingdom, right? He puts barriers in our life to protect us. But if He's asking us to love Him and love others, and we're not able to do it, I'm going to say that the barrier probably is not Him in that situation. It's probably us. And so as I'm sitting here going, okay, that's the way I look. I'm the barrier. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start looking up things and doing things. So this is the time that then God said, okay, Patty, this is what you usually do. You look up all your resources and you look up your sightings and you bring out your Bible and you pray, and that's all great. But you're done, and you're not doing it this time. So you're not talking from head knowledge like you always do, because this is what I do. I tell you stuff. I tell you this much about my life, literally. I let you barely, like here's the surface. Y'all are standing on it. And you're not getting in. I don't like that. It hurts, and I don't like it. And so He said, no, I'm not doing that. Not this time. And so He told me instead that He wants me to talk from my heart about what He's been showing me, what He's been revealing to me. And so with that, I'd like to introduce myself. Good morning. My name is Patty, and I'm learning to love myself. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up with 5 kids. There was 4 girls and then a boy. I was the 4th girl. And so often I introduced myself as the daughter they had before they had a son. I also introduced myself as the fat one. I was the only person that was overweight. Everybody else was very slender, and I had a weight problem ever since I was about 3. I also didn't get as good a grades as everybody else. And so I did a lot of things so that people would think I was special. I made a lot of bad choices just to prove that there was something inside of me that was lovable, that I had some type of value or worth. I grew up in a Christian home, but God wasn't presented to me as a loving father. And so I think that because of that, it was always like I was always doing something wrong. I never quite could get that pinnacle of being able to do what He wanted me to do. And so I spent a lot of my life trying to achieve, to earn some value, to earn some worth, to look in the mirror and think, okay, I'm finally getting it. Literally, I've spent all my life doing that. And it all came kind of to a crashing halt in April of 2017. So I had just returned home. My husband and I was at the Ohio State campus. I had just received a degree stayed after for a banquet for scholars. You think, oh, that sounds great. You got you're old, you're getting another college degree, and you're at this banquet because you're whatever. How awesome! I left feeling like I was just didn't even do anything. I was high all day. By the time I got home, through a series of events that happened while we were there, I came home and I looked in the mirror and I said the same 3 things that I always say to myself. Not good words. And I said, you're fat, you're ugly, and you're old. This is a hard talk. Sorry. Thank you. And so as I start changing my clothes and I'm throwing my stuff off, I'm in my closet and I scream out to God. I say, why didn't you make me better? You see, I blamed him because there was something wrong with me. That somehow, he's perfect in every other way, but somehow he made a mistake here with me. Like there's something wrong with me. I just can't measure up. I can't achieve. I cannot feel like there's something there. And although you may think I'm kind of loud, I've got a loud personality, and I'm okay with that. I don't normally scream. I'm not a screamer. I'm not a sobber. I cry, but I don't sob. And as I fell to the floor in my closet, sobbing, my husband comes in, because this is not my normal behavior. I feel this much bad for him, but that's about all. He's trying to figure out what's wrong with me. And as I spew and let him know everything that's going on that's wrong, I scream out, I hate myself. Do you know what it's like to look in the mirror and hate who you are? Do you have any idea what that's like every single day? Of course, he had no response, and that's okay. He didn't know what to do. This is not who his wife is, right? Happy Patty. Patty with a Y. And so I think at that point in my life, I felt like at that point when I did that it was actually okay that I said that. Like I voiced that to somebody. And I think my admission actually did something, and I really wish I would have said those words to somebody 40 years ago. Had I said that to somebody 40 years ago, God could have started fixing something in me that was broken, making sure that I understood where my eyes were supposed to be pointing, because here's the problem. When you don't admit how you feel about yourself, especially to the one that created you, how is he ever supposed to fix it? So you ask, what does this have to do with loving God and loving others? Well, I'm glad you asked. How can we, as the created, right, love the Creator the way he has called us to love him when we don't even like who we are? We are made in his image. We are his image bearer. But we look at ourselves as we're lacking, as if this perfect God messed up on me. He did everything okay. And I look out and I think, look at all the gifts and the talents and everything. I wish if I could do this or if I could do that. But somehow, some way, I'm thinking there's something not quite right here. How we think is the direction of our actions. You can't think one way and act another way. It's not going to work. It might be okay for a little bit, but eventually it's going to go that way. The Bible tells us in Romans 12:12 that God is transforming you into a new person by changing the way you think. And I believe also when we are critical of ourselves, that kind of spills out into being critical of others. Maybe not all the time, and maybe not verbally, maybe just in your mind at first, but eventually it's going to start seeping out of you, this critical spirit that's inside. And honestly, since God's been showing me about how he feels about me, I truly have a greater love for him. I also have a greater love for other people sometimes. No, just kidding. Actually, honestly, I'm able to pray, to walk in forgiveness a lot easier than I used to. I'm able to, especially if the apologies don't come, I'm able to overlook an offense a little bit easier and walk in grace. And so I think that whenever I'm filled up with his love, because I'm understanding what he thinks about me, that's able to come out. When we struggle with loving ourselves because we don't feel loved, oftentimes what happens is we are placing that desire to be loved on the wrong person, because we should be looking to God for that. But we're putting it on people. And humans I don't care if it's your dad, I don't care if it's your brother, your kids, your husband, I don't care who it is. They're humans, they're going to hurt us, they're going to fail. That's what they do. That's what I do. That's what you do. Y'all, if you don't realize by now that sometimes you fail, you do, but I do too, and it's okay because we have a God that still loves us. But when you look to the Lord for your identity and you are filled with his truth about who you are, then you can actually walk confidently in the purpose that he established for your life. And so the last 2 years, I've been focusing on 3 things. And so these are the 3 things that if you struggle with this, and I am just going to say that God told me you are not the only one, and that's why you're saying this. So if you are somebody that struggles with this, or maybe you don't, that's awesome. I'm glad. But if you do, I've got 3 ideas for you. The first one is to spend time in truth and with truth. So what does that mean? That means that you're going to spend time talking to God, so you're going to spend time with God. Excuse me. You're also going to spend time in the Bible, okay? And it's not just like read a chapter a day. I mean, that's great and all, but I'm going to be real honest with you. Sometimes you have to really dig into the Bible to find out what God feels about you, and that's what I had to do. Do you know that the hairs on your head are numbered? They are. Do you know that he has a purpose established for you? And it says that in Ephesians 4:20, that he established a purpose for me. And he created me anew in Jesus because he established that before I was even born. He established that purpose for me. And that he has my name on his hand. That he was watching me being formed. And when I read that, this is what I thought. I thought of a new father watching the belly of the mother that grow. I can't feel the child. I don't know what it's like to be pregnant, but he just can't wait to hold that child. And that's the way I kind of felt God looking at us, as if he is he's watching us being formed, oh, she's coming. She's coming. Not yet, but the day that I have, she's coming. And one of the big things that I've used, is Psalms 139, 1 through 18. I'm not going to read it all, but I do want to read a couple spots to you. And it says in here, and this is how God, so write this down if you need to. It's Psalms 139, 1 through 18. Really helped me because we have an intimate God. It talks about, he knows what I'm going to say even before I say it. And he goes before me, and he's behind me. It says, I can never get away from your presence, that your hand will guide me, your strength will uphold me. I cannot hide from you. And it says, you watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. Before my life had even come to pass, guess what? All my days were already planned. And if you've ever been to the beach and you can look out, in your mind, just imagine the sand to your left, and imagine the sand to the right, and imagine just standing there and seeing all the sand. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God? They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand, and you are still with me. His thoughts about me, they're more than that. And whenever I think about that, it's crazy. It really is crazy. Think about that. We can't even count that. And when you are filled with truth and you spend time in truth, you are able to identify the lies, and they cannot control your thinking anymore because it has been transformed. Number 2, words matter. The words you say to yourself matter. The words that I always said to myself, I really try hard not to say. I try to tell myself I'm chosen, that I'm purposed. God has a purpose for me. Today, he has a purpose for me. Tomorrow, he has a purpose for me, and I'm beautiful. And you have to be your own friend by that. If the words that you're saying to yourself, you wouldn't say to a friend, then you probably shouldn't say those to yourselves, unless you're a bad friend, in which case we probably should talk. Alicia Blanton was at my house in October of 2017, and she said something that really stuck with me. And she said, I realized I place expectations on myself I'd never place on another woman. And that stuck with me because I do that all the time. Like, I don't have the same expectations, not that we should place expectations on other people, but unrealistic expectations on ourselves. So we need to be our own friends. The words we say to ourselves, they really do matter. It matters what we say. Number 3, what we hear we cannot control, but what we listen to we can. And at times, what we are exposed to we can't control because there's stuff all the way out there, but what we pay attention to we can. I don't know if you know who Brenda Wallach is, but you only need to be around her for about 90 seconds before you realize that she is filled with the Holy Spirit, because you just feel better about yourself when you're with her. I was playing the keyboard for Michelle for a couple of weeks while she recovered, and one day before we went down, after a Sunday service, she told me, you have the most beautiful hands. And I remember immediately looking at my hands. And she said, I saw your fingers, and they were going up and down on the keyboard, and they were so beautiful. And I probably said beautiful too many more times than what she did, but this is what I heard in my mind, which is okay. And that was on a Sunday. I was in class on Tuesday, and there was a student. I went to grab something, and the student was like, oh my gosh, your hands look old. And I said, and I started to agree with the student, but you know what I listened to? I heard that, but do you know what I listened to? I listened to Brenda Wallach, and I stopped. And I said, well, you know what? I'm older than both of your parents, so my hands are probably not going to look like yours. And it didn't hurt me what she said, and it didn't even hurt me what she had said, but I just was trying to, I was going to agree. Yeah, my hands look old, because sometimes they really look pretty bad. Need some lotion. We all understand that, right? But I listened to her. And so you can hear things, but what are you clinging to? What are you holding on to? And so I would just encourage you to actually listen to truth. We can love ourselves, and I'm not saying in a worldly, prideful way. I'm saying we can love ourselves in a purposed, kingdom-centered way that honors God, the God whose image we bear, honors who He made each of us to be, and celebrate our uniqueness in Him. I start, as I'm thinking, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this. I'm gonna tell you something. I have hated my legs my whole life. I am going to say something out loud I've never really told anybody. I wanted to be a ballerina. Now, by the way, I also like to split wood. But when I was growing up, I would dance in my bedroom, even into high school. I just wanted to have long, beautiful legs. My legs are similar to a tree trunk. And y'all, I'm not joking. I'm not even 5'3". I'm really short. And so I have these stumpy legs. And I would be like, yeah, I got tree trunks. But I always hated my legs. But I am learning that God created me with a purpose. And you know what telling myself, whether He's saying it or not, I'm telling myself. He said, I'm like, you know what? God wanted me to be strong because He's got something for me to carry. And I can't carry it with them skinny legs like y'all have those pretty long skinny legs. Not me. Oh no. I got some strong, sturdy legs. I'm going to carry stuff on my back. But that's okay because He has a purpose for my legs, and my legs work. Exactly. They do. And so I'm looking at things differently. Whenever we understand what true love is, when we really understand how He feels about us, we can walk confidently in that. And we can live happily in that truth and the truth of who He is.